What's going on, everyone? We are back for another SQL Saturdays. Thank you for everyone that is tuning in. We're just getting everything set up here. If this is your first time tuning in, feel free to drop a comment. Make sure you like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for the channel. We do this every other Saturday, and we bring to you awesome instructors and coaches that are either experienced or on their learning journey as well, and are here to help you out. So, again, make sure you subscribe to the channel, like, hit the notification button. Uh, Give us a shout out on Twitter, on LinkedIn, all about the data, SQL Saturdays. Let everyone know you are here. We're learning about cases today, and we have our instructor with us, Susan. Susan, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hi everyone, my name is Susan, and I think I'll just share my slides to pretty much introduce myself. Uh, a minute, please. So yeah, my name is Susan, and I am currently an intern at AWS. I am a business intelligence intern, and I mostly deal with Tableau, QuickSight, some SQL, some Redshift, AWS specialized tools. And then before embarking on this internship, I am actually currently still a master's student studying management of technology, and I'm specializing in business intelligence and operations management. And before moving to the US for my master's, I used to work as a business solutions developer where I leverage SQL a lot. So I have quite a lot of experience with SQL, either with dashboard building, business intelligence, or API building. So that's pretty much about me.
Awesome. Thank you for the introduction, Susan. So, everyone, today, once again, just drop in the comments where you're tuning in from. Make sure you give us a shout out on LinkedIn, on Twitter, Facebook, wherever you're tuning from. All about the data, SQL Saturdays. Make sure you subscribe to the playlist. If this is your first time tuning in, this is session 13. We do have 12 other videos filled with content that you can go and learn some SQL basics and SQL fundamentals. So, we're going to go ahead and jump into today's lesson. And again, the replay will be available after. So yes, it's available. It's free. You can watch it as many times as you need to after this. If you have any questions, we'll try to get to some questions towards the end. So you can definitely drop those in the comments. For those who don't know, I'm your host for today, Jamar Data J on Twitter, Data J and Tech on Twitter, and Jamar Gale on LinkedIn if you want to add me there. So Susan, we'll go ahead and have you take over. We have people from Nigeria with us. We have Ghana with us. We have Mississippi in the house. So it should be a good study session today. So Susan, I'll let you go ahead and take over.
Okay, hi everyone again. It's good to know that I have my fellow Nigerians and West Africans or people from all over the world listening to me right now. So before we get started, you guys could just take this survey to help us curate these sessions for you better to all of that. And then we have to set up our database. So you guys could just scan this QR code and then just do the setup on this side before we get into the practical experience for today. So I'll just give like 10 seconds so everybody can scan this and then before we move forward. I don't mind Jay, if you could drop this link in the comments so they could do that on the side and we don't waste further time.
Yeah, I'll drop that for you guys as well.
Okay, so moving on. Today we'll be talking about using the case statement, and this is a little bit of intermediate to advanced SQL. So if you're a beginner, you might be a little bit confused, but I would highly recommend you go back to or maybe check our previous sessions. We've done sessions on select and all of these basic SQL, beginner SQL. But case statements is just using a little bit of logic to do things quicker in SQL instead of writing full long queries and all of that. So the case statement goes through conditions, and if you're familiar with coding either in Python language, JavaScript, or any other language, even in Excel, there is something called an if statement. It's a conditional statement where you do something if it meets a certain condition, and if it doesn't meet that condition, then you do something else. So it's like an if then else statement. So using the case statement in SQL, we have, several ways we do it. And the criteria is that if the condition is true, it will stop reading and return the results. If the condition is not true, it checks the other condition and then keeps checking until it gets to the else clause, where it executes the else clause if any of the case statements we wrote previously doesn't meet any of the conditions. So just like I said earlier, moving on to the next slide, if there is no else part and there are no conditions met, it's going to return null. So to be on the safer side, when you're writing case statement, it's always advisable to put else, because you don't really, except you really understand your database schema and then you understand what is in your table and how your columns are written, and you're very sure that you do not need that else statement. But to be on the safer side, there is always a need to put an else statement, and it even helps you understand your data better. You see, okay, if I don't get all of these results, then I get this other result for this case. So also, the case statement has a syntax that is used, and it must be terminated with an end clause. I'm sure we'll see examples as we move on. So moving on to the next slide, my first case, I'll be talking about using case in select statements. For those that are familiar with SQL or that have been doing SQL before today, we know what select statements is. Select statement is pretty much just trying to read from your database. So this is, you're not altering anything, you're not deleting anything, you're just trying to read what already exists in your database. So if you're trying to choose a value based on other conditions, the case statement comes in handy. And then just so we understand the use case of select state the use of case in select statement properly, I'll be showing us how this can be done without the case statement. So we get where these examples come in and where it is best to use case. So this example is just talking about setting rental duration based on rental rate, and then we have our film ID. I did not take a snapshot of database schema because I'll be doing a live example. So this is just to just show what I'm talking about right now. So we're trying to select our film ID, title, rental rate, and rental duration from film, and then we want to select based on these conditions. So we want a case where our rental rate is 0.99, then our rental duration will be 3. Then another case where our rental rate is 2.99, then our rental duration will be 4, and then it goes on like that. And then else, like I mentioned, else if it is 6, if at any point it's 6, then we if at any point there's any other rental rate that is not 0.99, 2.99, or 4.99, then the rental rate should be 6. So for some reasons, I forgot to take a screenshot of what the result of this looks like. But this is an example of a time where you can use a case statement to select items from your database. And then moving forward, I'll just show you how this can be done without the case statement. So you see how we can also write select statements not using the case statement. So in this other statement, we are rewriting our select now without the case statement. So you can see here it's pretty much the same thing we're doing, but now we're writing using where conditions. We're saying where rental rate is this and that, where this is this and that, and then this is not in. It's just a full like breakdown of what we're trying to do. But using the case statement, it's just more straightforward, and you see it's just very direct. It's just like, okay, if rental duration is 0.99, then give me this as my rental rate. Else if it is this, then give me this. Else if it is this, then this. Then okay, if it is not 0.99, 2.99, 4.99, just, and it is 6 probably, then if it is not either 0.99, 2.99, or 4.99, then just give me 6 as the rental rate. So that's pretty much what you're seeing here. And it just shows us the use of case and how it makes our query easier to write, and it also helps with running our queries faster and the performance of our queries in general. So my next use case will be talking about conditional updates in SQL. So this is just sometimes we are not trying to select from our database, we are trying to update something. So update is pretty much you're trying to say, okay, I already have this in my database, but I want to change a certain information based on a particular condition. So this is another time where you can use the case in SQL, one of the most common use cases anyway. So this is in this case, I am going the other way around. I'm trying to show us what it looks like to do a conditional update in SQL and what it looks like doing it with a case statement. So here we're trying to increase salaries of instructors whose salary is over 100,000 naira by three. I'm sorry, I didn't say naira. $100,000 by 3%, and all others by 5%. So the typical way to do this using an update statement is writing two update statements just for this. So you see, we're saying update instructor, set salary. So before I move on, for those that are not familiar with the update statement, you could check out some resources on how update works, and then the syntax is pretty much straightforward. Just update, and then you put set. This is where you're trying to change, and then you're putting your condition. You're trying to say, okay, change my salary to salary times 1.03. That's increasing it by 3%, which is multiplying by 1.03 as a figure. And then you're saying only change the salary when the salary is greater than $100,000. That's what we're trying to do here. And then we're also saying, okay, in the other case, if the salary is not greater than $100,000, then increase it by 5%. That's multiplying by 1.05%. So this works. And then the order is important because you have to execute the statement where you know the condition, and then do the other part where you don't know the condition. This works fine. This is going to give you the answer that we want. But trying to do it with the case statement, you see how short this can be and how it's much easier and more straightforward to write. So using the case statement, you just see it's the same thing. We're setting our salary, we're updating instructor and setting our salary equals case when salary less than equals 100, then salary multiplied by 1.05, else salary multiplied by 1.03, and this works. It's pretty much the same thing as this. So you see how we can use our case statements to write much more straightforward queries and then better logic, and it even helps you, like, in case there's something that you're trying to do. Say maybe you're trying to say, okay, I want those that earn, maybe a little bit less than $50,000 to earn 10% increase in salary. You can easily do that with the statement. You just have to do then when salary, less than, maybe greater than zero and less than or equals $50,000, then salary multiplied by 1.1, then else. It's very straightforward. You can put as many conditions as you want. But imagine having to write it one by one like this, where you have to write separate update statements one by one. That's just very long, and it's easy to make mistakes. It's easy to even, you can't easily see the comparison between what you're trying to do. It's just you copying and pasting and then just writing it all over and all over again, wasting time, wasting, database space and all of that. So this is just my best use cases for update, and where I have a lot of experience using case statements. I use it a lot in update statements and select statements. For select statements now, there are other ways you can use it. You can even use okay, sorry. You can use, I didn't put that in this slide, but I'll share that in the example I'm about to share. You can use the case statement in select to actually even create a new column if you're trying to see something. So for example, if you're trying to say, okay, where rental rates is 0.99, you can say then maybe low price and all of that, and then you create a new column beside it. So I'll just exit my slide now because I am done with the presentation and just the theoretical part. I'll just be sharing one example using a select statement. If you haven't um gone to SQLite website, this is the site here, and then you should run the first query, which is creating all of these tables. The first thing you do first is to connect to
I'm sorry,
PostgreSQL.
Susie. If you can you just zoom into the video just a little bit? I mean,
Uh, okay. Does this
yeah,
work?
uh, you could just zoom in like a little bit more. Just Control Plus should do it. Yeah,
Okay.
a little more.
Let's see.
Yeah, that should be good.
Okay, so this is where I think you guys have to run all of this first. So we have all our tables, because when you open SQLite, you'd only have this demo table as the default table that comes with this test um this test site. So running this query will create all of these tables and then also insert some data into them. So I'm not going to go over this because this is like the default syntax for doing all of these things we want to do here. So I'm just going to move on to the example that I'm trying to show. So here I'm trying to select product name and prices. And I'm not only trying to select prices, I'm trying to categorize prices based on the value. So in this table, in the price table, I'll just show you what's in the price table. Oh, sorry, product table rather, not price table. In the product table, you can see the columns we have. We have product ID, which is the primary key. In case you don't know what a primary key is a unique identifier for a table. So every entry into this table product must have a primary key, which is the unique identifier of each product. So moving on, we have product ID, we have the product name, supplier ID, category ID, quantity per unit, unit price, units in stock, units on order, reorder level, and discontinued. So if you look at these columns very well, you can see that there's nothing called price category there. So this is me using a case statement use not to only like categorize my prices, but also create a new column that would show me the category I am putting all of these price values based on this SQL statement I'm writing. So you can see what saying. So the first thing I did was I tried to, you know, run a select star from, oh, let me just do that right on the side. So, okay, I tried to do a select star from product, and then running this, we have, um, okay, you see there's a whole bunch of columns here. So just to streamline it, I don't want to see all of the columns. So I would say select, say product name and unit price and products. And then this is what I have. So you can see there are several prices here. So imagine as the sales manager, you're trying to categorize each of these products into three price categories, based on how expensive or how inexpensive these products are based on their prices. So this is basically what I try to do with this case statement, which is a different use case and which people really use, you know, case statements to do in select statements. So this is what I did. I selected product name and unit price. So you can't use a case or you can't put a condition without selecting the unit price. Just if you're familiar with group by, same way you can't group by in SQL without actually selecting the column you're trying to group by. It's the same logic for case. So I have to select my product name and most importantly my unit price because I am trying to, you know, set some conditions using my unit price. So the first condition I'm saying is when unit price is less than or equals 20, then low price. And then when unit price greater than 20 and unit price less than or equals 50, then fairly high price. Then when unit price greater than 50, then high price. So in this case, I didn't put an else statement because these conditions pretty much cover every use case that you can have in the unit price column. So it's less than or equals 20 or it's in between 20 and 50 or it's greater than 50. So there's no other value that you can have that can fall outside any of these conditions. That's why I didn't put an else statement. But like I mentioned earlier, it's always highly advisable to put an else statement. I could put an else statement and say else others, but I wouldn't do that because I don't need it. So running this, because of the use case I'm trying to create, and because price category does not exist in any of these columns. It's basically me trying to create a new column called price category, and these columns will fill up each of these conditions I have set here. So you can see I after the end clause, I put price category. So what this pretty much just means is I'm selecting product name, unit price, and price category. But before setting price category, I'm actually using this conditional statement to set what the price category values would be based on the unit price. That's just the logic. If you're familiar with Python or coding, it's just like saying if this equals this, then that, else if this equals this, then that, all of that stuff in coding. Then of course I'm selecting from table products and I just want to do an order by unit price so that I get to see the price categories from lowest to highest. So running this now, I'm just going to show you. So you guys can see this column automatically created. And then you can see each of the prices from the lowest to the highest. So you can see price 2.5, it's a low price, 4.5, high price, 6, 7.45, like that, up until we get to the fairly high price. you can see right from greater than 20, we got a new category called fairly high price. And then up until we go all the way down to the products that the price is greater than 50, then we have our high prices. So you see, there's some products if I probably dive deeper into these tables, I would have probably done maybe extremely high price. Maybe for those that a little bit greater than 100. So I'll just maybe do that now, because just so we understand how this works properly. Greater than 50 and unit price less than or equals 100. Then high price, then I'll say when unit price greater than 100, then extremely, or I'll just say very high price. So running this now, I just changed the logic a little bit, nothing really different, just added a new category. So you can see we have our high prices stopping at $97, and then we have our very high price. So this is a very good way to, like, just categorize something you have in your database if you're trying to see your data from a different angle than what it originally comes in. So I think that will be all. I'll be taking questions now. If you guys have any questions for me, I am done with the lessons for today. This is just an overview. I would implore you guys to like do some more reading, especially if you're new to SQL, and see more use cases of case statement and how we can use this even in other like logic forms when you're creating, subqueries and all of this other good stuff. So any questions for me?
Yeah, so we actually have one question here. Somebody asks, can you use between for second when statement?
Um sorry, I didn't get that.
Uh,
Between for second when statement, yes, you can use. So if, for example, you're trying to compare it, you can say case when this between this and that. And between syntax has when you use that logic. So it depends on the logic you are trying to use, really. Like if your logic requires you to check two different values, you're trying to compare between two different values in the case of like a date, maybe, then yes, you can use between. Anything you can do, really. You see me using and. In some other cases you can even use or. It depends on what you're trying to do, basically. Yeah, I hope that answers the question. Any other questions?
okay, yeah, that was actually the last question. So
Okay, thank you guys.
thank you, Susan, for the lesson today. Remember, everyone that's tuned in, the replay will be.
Okay, I think there is another question.
Oh,
How
I
can
see
we
it.
add new column price category in the product table? So if you do not want to do this using the case statement, you can actually use it as a syntax for adding a new column. I think it's something around create. Let me try to write something. I'm not so sure because I do not actually have the syntaxes off the top of my head. Most times I just Google what I try to do. And that's another thing I'll try to implore you guys. If you're new to SQL, the most important thing is knowing what you're trying to do. If you know what you're trying to do, Google has so many resources for like helping you out. There's like SQLserver.com where you like have like very in-depth. I'll just paste that into the comments right now. You guys could use that. Oh, I don't know. For some reason, I can't drop comments, but yeah, it's called SQLserver.net or something like that. So it's something called create. No, you first of all alter the table. You start with an alter statement. I might not write the correct syntax, but it's you start with something alter table. Say product, then say create product name or something like that. So create column or something. It might be create column, say product category. This might not work. You have to specify the data type. So if it's an integer, you could just say int or something around that. So different SQL servers have different syntaxes for running some of these commands. So this is PostgreSQL, and I'm very, very much more familiar with Microsoft SQL. So I'm not sure this will work, but this might work in Microsoft SQL. But you could look it up. I only know that you're definitely going to start by writing an alter table because you're trying to alter an existing table. If you're creating a new table, you would start with a create table and then you list the name of all the columns you're trying to create. So alter table is what you do when you're altering the table. You're trying to tell your database schema that, okay, I'm trying to alter this table by creating a new column. So this is it. You probably look it up, check SQL Server.net. Even W3 schools will help you with this basic syntaxes. I don't know if anybody has any other questions for me. How do you use aggregate functions with case statements? So that's not part of our this thing, but I'm not really sure. Aggregate functions with case statements. So it depends on the logic. So case statements are mostly always used for comparing. Like you're trying to check what's already in one distance. So you can use aggregate function. You can say, um, for example, let me go back here. You can say case when maybe sum of unit price or something, and all of that. Maybe say sum, or basically the same way you use these functions regularly. That's how it works. And then you can always try any of these things. Like, I don't really think there's a way to teach people how to, like, do some of these things except giving you a general overview of the syntax. And then you can just try anything. You might be trying to do something and be like, okay, I'm not sure how this works. So you can try it case when some unit price or something like this is less than 20, and then all of that. But in particularly, I don't think I would use a aggregate function with a case. This is when I mostly use it when I'm trying to compare or when I'm trying to update based on a condition, and all of that stuff. So it's not every time you need to use aggregate functions with other functions in SQL. And most importantly, always try out these things to know which one is going to work and which one is not going to work, and where SQL is going to flag an error and say, okay, you can't use this with this. Okay, so I think we are far beyond gone for time right now, and I'll just be ending the session here. Thank you guys for listening to me, and I hope to, have some more sessions. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you everyone for tuning in once again. Make sure you subscribe and like the YouTube, hit the notification bell so you guys be notified when we go live again. And follow us on Twitter, LinkedIn, join the Discord if you haven't already. The replay will be available after this session once the live goes off. So thank you for everyone tuning in and hope that you got everything out of it. Thank you, Susan, again for the lesson. And you guys enjoy the rest of your SQL Saturdays.